Hi, it's Meredith. I am at a horse ranch in Hilliard, Florida, a few miles from the Hilliard Air Park where Dana and I used to keep our cub. And my daughter is taking some horseback riding lessons as part of her homeschool curriculum. So we come up here or to another ranch every Tuesday morning for some lessons. She's learning all about risk management and decision making and precision and focus. And that is a good lead into the topic of today's video, which is what are some reasons why someone, perhaps you or someone you know, should consider not becoming a pilot? Now, we see this at the flight school all the time where we have a customer who might come in and wants to become a pilot, thinks they might want to become a pilot, but as we discover through the course of the training program, that person might display some personality characteristics, some learning, not disabilities, but learning challenges that might make it a little difficult for that person to really learn how to fly, not just the mechanics of it, but to really embrace being pilot in command. So I wrote down a short list here of some things, and then I'm going to go into it in more detail later. So you might not be cut out to be a pilot if you take risks without considering the consequences of not managing those risks. You know, one of the things that our daughter is learning through horseback riding, and I've been trying to parallel this with her to flying, is that you really have to consider the risks of your activity and always be prepared to mitigate those risks. So if you're the kind of person who just goes out there and does it and just kind of wings it all the time, maybe takes risks like drinking and driving. Maybe you've never had a DUI or a DWI, but you've gotten away with it. You know, that's a pretty big risk to take, not only for yourself, but putting others in danger. And the same can be said of horseback riding, of flying, of lots of other activities. So you really need to be the kind of person who takes risk management seriously and is, you know, mature about it, you know, where you respect not only your own life and property, but that of others. Another characteristic of a person who might not be cut out to be a pilot is if you're the kind of person who is easily distracted or lacks focus. You have a hard time focusing. Let's face it, when you're riding a horse or flying an airplane or driving a car, you have to be able to multitask, you know, not just focus on the control, but focus on what's happening around you, the other vehicles, the other animals, the other humans that are around you. You have to be able to manage your activities in relationship to all those others. You know, maybe has been diagnosed with, or you suspect that you have like attention deficit disorder or ADHD. We see a lot of this these days. I don't know why. I'm not a doctor or psychiatrist, but all I know is when I was a kid, you know, nobody ever heard about this. You may have had one kid in school who maybe was a little fidgety and had a hard time focusing, but today, for whatever reason, it just seems kind of rampant, not just among kids, but among some adults as well that have maybe had that happen to them as a child and now they're an adult and they have a hard time focusing. All of these things are related, and I can't stress that enough, that if you want to be a successful pilot, you have to be able to manage risk, focus, and multitask. There goes Alex, doing a good job at all three. So the horse that my daughter is riding out there, Diesel is his name. He's super sweet. He loves kisses. He's a pretty gentle horse. He's never displayed any aggression or anything. So I feel pretty confident letting her ride him. But nonetheless, I've really tried to instill in her and have her remember each time she comes out to ride that, you know, this is a 1,500-pound animal that can crush you, right? He looks sweet. Like I said, he likes kisses. He eats carrots, but he's a big animal. You know, one of the things we've been teaching her is before every lesson, every time you get on that horse, you have to do a little bit of like a pre-flight, like we would do with an airplane, right? So check out how the horse is doing, make sure your gear is set up correctly, and go through your emergency procedures. So we drill, what are you going to do if the horse starts misbehaving? If it starts acting erratically because it gets spooked? You know, horses are herd animals. They're not predators, they are prey. So if they get spooked by something, if they think that they're in danger, they may want to run away. And if you're on the horse when it wants to run, you have to be prepared to get it back under control and make it run where you want to go, not where the horse wants to go. So, you know, we've been talking a lot about risk management on the horse and how to get off of it if the horse suddenly goes rogue. We've seen that happen, not with her on the horse, thank goodness, but with a couple of the other riders here and at other ranches where the horse decided to do its own thing. And it was a couple weeks ago, I saw a girl get tossed off the horse, and she was fine, thank goodness. But you know, we know another girl who got knocked off a horse and ended up in the hospital. And yeah, that worries me a little bit, right? I certainly don't want this otherwise fun educational activity for my daughter to, you know, end up in a situation like that. But it's something that we have to prepare to deal with. And just like with flying, right? Could you end up in a ditch? Could you end up rolled over? Could you end up ground looped in your tail dragger? You know, could you end up bending the prop on a hard landing or worse? Yes, all of those things could happen, and they happen every week all around the country to somebody. But the best way that we as pilots can prevent that from happening is through drilling emergency procedures and preparation, right? If you think about all of those things beforehand and you know what to do to keep it from happening, you're much more likely to have a good outcome. So Alex, tell me, what do you do if Diesel starts to get scared and want to run? If he feels like he's threatened, what do you do?
Well, you do the probably basic emergency procedure. It's called the one rein stop.
Okay.
You just reach down and pull his head to the side, and that way it doesn't allow him to go forward.
Good. And do you remember what to do if you feel like you're about to fall off of him? What's your emergency exit off of the horse?
You hug his neck and you swing your legs over and plop yourself on the ground.
Good. Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Diesel. See? Even a 10, soon to be 11-year-old kid can learn risk management. And so that's something that every future pilot needs to think about. Is it's a fun activity, everybody wants to get in the air, everybody wants to, you know, land the airplane and have a good time flying around, but every single time you get in that airplane, you have to remember that it can kill you if you let it. And your job as the pilot in command is to not let that happen, ever. Another personality trait of people, which is not super helpful if you want to be pilot in command, is indecisiveness. We sometimes refer to this as analysis paralysis, where the pilot, the person who's trying to become a pilot, just really has a hard time making a decision, you know. And if you think about driving your car, right? You're going down the highway and you have to change lanes. And because your exit is coming up. So let's say you're in the left lane and you need to be in the right lane to take the exit. You have to be able to decide, okay, am I going to do that right now and get in front of that car who's coming up from behind me? Am I going to slow down and let the car pass me and then get behind them, turn on my signal and you know, get in the turn lane? So these are active decisions that you have to make in the heat of the moment. You can't just sit there and be like, what am I going to do? Next thing you know, you've passed your exit and now you're stressed out and you have to figure out what to do to take the next exit. So when you're flying, you have to be able to think and process rather quickly, deliberately, but quickly, to make decisions. And we're doing this all the time without even thinking about it. Like, for example, we're on final approach and we're looking at the runway. We're evaluating our wind drift, we're evaluating our glide path, and you know, you get to a point where you're not sitting there thinking, oh, I'm high, what do I do? You just know what to do. You say, okay, if I'm a little high, maybe I reduce the power. You know, maybe I lower the nose a little bit if I need a little more airspeed. Maybe I can use some flaps. Maybe I could do a slip. We've got lots of tools available to us, right, to adjust our glide path. But in training, you have to get to a point where those things are instinctual, just like when you're driving and you're trying to change lanes, you're not sitting there kind of processing what to do. You just instinctively know what to do and you do it. Just like Alex riding the horse here, right? She is getting to that point now where she doesn't have to sit and think about, oh, how do I make the horse go right or left, or what do I do to stop, or how do I back it up? You know, I've been observing her, and a lot of that stuff is becoming more automatic for her, which is great. She's becoming pilot in command of the horse. So as a pilot, you have to be able to conduct yourself in such a manner. So if you're the kind of person who just really has a hard time making a decision and you find yourself sitting there kind of, oh, I don't know, is this right, is this not, about every little thing in your life, you may have a hard time becoming a pilot.
Practice.
Turns around a point
I control you.
with a horse.
Circles, maintaining the size. Good boy.
Control. Decisions. I love it. This is my buddy. He's so sweet. Look at those eyes. Hi, baby. The other thing that's really important if you want to be successful as a pilot is to study the art of flying. You have to have a passion for learning everything you can about the airplane, about weather, about air traffic control. Really have a passion for learning all of these things. You know, sometimes we see students that say, yeah, I haven't been studying, it's kind of boring, or they just don't really want to invest the time. And I always wonder about those folks, because I think to myself, you know, if all you want to do is get up there and manipulate the controls, then you're really not getting it. You know what I mean? You have to want to really learn as much as you can about this activity. And just like Alex here with the horses, you know, we're homeschooling now, as many of you know from the channel, and we're working on a research paper for this semester on the history of horses in America. This is going to be our American history theme paper. That has to do with horses. So she's going to learn about how horses have been used in transportation, how they've been used in industry, some of the characteristics of horses, care of horses. We're not only taking these lessons at this barn, but helping some of her 4-H friends take care of their horses at their barn to really learn about the care of horses, what they eat, what their behaviors are, what their needs are. And it's the same thing for a flight student with the airplane. You have to know, what does this engine need? What does this airplane need from you? And what are the consequences of not giving it what it needs, right? Alex has learned that on this horse, she has to stop every now and then and give it water. Because you know what? It's a living creature just like we are. Just like she needs to take a water break, the horse also needs a water break. Well, with the airplane, you have to keep track of your fuel, right? You have to manage your fuel correctly. You have to not take all of those calculations lightly. You have to take it very seriously. So you really need to learn about your airplane and your environment. And if you're the kind of person that's just really not into the studying of aviation, I would say you probably want to reconsider being a pilot, because not only are you not going to get the most out of it, but you're potentially going to be a dangerous pilot. And that's not something you want, or your family wants, or I want sharing the airspace with you.
Stay with it, Alex. Go.
Oh, did he go back out?
Go, go, go. Yeah, it just went around.
Chase it out. Chase it. Chase it in there. Don't let it go.
Go, Alex. Go.
Go get it.
Baby.
Go get it. You can do it. There you go.
Ah, there you go.
So if you want to be a pilot, you need to have the capacity to learn and the desire to learn. You need to be self-motivated and passionate about aviation. You need to be humble enough to recognize your own weaknesses, but confident enough to overcome them. Basically, you need to be smarter and more motivated than this cute little cow.